travel to Minneapolis. So do the Hawkeyes. Rumor has it the Redshirt Sophomore is going to be in Minneapolis for this game. I was favored by 2.5 in this game. Minnesota historically struggling with Iowa and the rival, except for last year. There perhaps was a controversial special teams play involving Cooper DeJean. However,
and a so-called hand being up in the air, which was called, and that was the result. And if you're an Iowa fan, obviously you're gonna scoff at that. But listen, hey, you've had Minnesota's number for a while now. It's gonna be a heck of a game. 6:30 game in Minneapolis there. The weather's gonna be beautiful, which is obviously these offenses need everything they can get. So I'm glad there's gonna be some kind of good weather and maybe good momentum for these offenses. But listen, it's gonna be a great game, I think. When I say great game, I mean physical, a lot of passion, great crowd, right? If you are coming here for offense and big plays and great quarterback play, you're probably not going to get it. You really aren't. And listen, I'll say this. I don't know if I would not be surprised if we see Brendan Sullivan a little bit for Iowa, more than we have. He came in one play last week. He threw the touchdown. I get that. But McNamara has struggled, man. He has struggled. And I know they're running the ball well, explosively with Caleb Johnson, but I think it's going to take more than that to beat Minnesota. I think you need to do what UNC did, right? In that second half, being able to move the football and throw the ball just a little bit, complement the running game just a little bit, back them off just a little bit to be able to have a chance here to go on the road and get a win in Minneapolis for the Floyd Rosedale.
yeah, I mean, running the ball was a formula that worked well for UNC. It's a front seven for Minnesota that, yes, they've only allowed 3.5 yards per play, 2.6 yards per carry on the season. Competition has a lot to do with that, I think. And North Carolina was still able to run the ball, right? So Iowa is going to definitely be able, they're going to try to run the ball effectively out of the gates. Okay. I mean, the X factor for me here is, Darius Taylor's really good, like really stinking good. I don't know how Max Brosmer is going to do against this Iowa defense, who's kind of proven itself to be pretty awesome yet again. I know they kind of had a blunder against Iowa State, but that was a game that they didn't have an offense that complemented them there in the second half, so it was tough. It was tough. I look at this and I'm like, you know, historically, Iowa's had success against Minnesota. I look at this defense for Iowa. I like their defense better than I like Minnesota's offense. I'm not sure. I don't love Iowa's offense, but also don't love Minnesota's front seven in the way that they were trying to stop the run against North Carolina. I know North Carolina's different because Marion Hampton is a legitimate NFL talent. I don't know if the three backs that Iowa have qualifies as NFL talents yet, or from what I've seen. I think I'm going to lay in with Iowa here to minus 2.5. That'll be my pick. I would win. I would cover in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I'm gonna be right there with you. I actually feel pretty good about Iowa going in and getting win. Normally, I do not feel good about laying 2.5 with Iowa. And
Yeah.
honestly, because that's a large number to get over, especially with the field goal battles that this game has been recently. Dragon Ketchuk was unbelievable in a super windy environment last year in Iowa City. This year, he has struggled. The reigning Big Ten kicker of the year has struggled, including missing the potential game winner, albeit it was a pretty long field goal against UNC in week one, night game as well for Minnesota. Last year in this game, Darius Taylor had a couple catches and some good runs, and Daniel Jackson was the only other player to have a catch in that game. Now, that was Ethan Kaliakmanis zeroing in on his best playmaker. I do think what Brosmer does better, and he has shown that the past 2 weeks, is looking for other options, going through his progressions, finding matchups he likes pre-snap. And I do think you're seeing Lemecki Brockington, you're seeing Donald Driver's kid, Christian Driver, you're seeing the tight end Jamison Gears, and Elijah Spencer take steps that they were not consistent in last year. Yes, it was Nevada and it was Rhode Island, but the Max Brosmer and this offense that has played recently, it looks completely different than it was in week one. Even though it's obviously worse competition, it's just fluid, right? They're getting in rhythm. I do worry about how they have run the football, though. I was expecting them and hoping for them to dominate Rhode Island, and Nevada. And outside of Darius Taylor's 80-yard touchdown, they really didn't. And Iowa's defense, especially the defensive line, has some dogs, some absolute dogs. And that front seven with those linebackers, really, really, really good. And Minnesota does not want to be in third and long because, first of all, your offensive line and pass pro has not been very good either. This is supposed to be a strength of your team, and they've been shuffling that right side with Quinn Carroll and a litany of people just trying to figure out what you want to do there at right guard and right tackle. And that scares me a ton for Minnesota, especially with how limited Iowa is offensively. And all they got to do is break a couple big plays. This game has historically come down to who can be explosive plays, who can win, 25, 30 plus yard gains and put themselves in field goal range to potentially steal some points because points are hard to come by. And 36.5 is obviously a low total. I think last year, was it below 30?
It might have been 29 and a half.
I think it
It
closed
was
under
really
that.
sticky. But I think
And it still hit the under. It
yeah.
still hit the
What was
under
it,
pretty
13,
easily.
12 or 13, 10, 13, 12?
12 to 10. 12 to 10. 4 field
Wow.
goals from John Ketchik. But listen, I still, like you said, with Minnesota's, explosiveness or lack of explosiveness in that front seven and what they do struggling to stop the run. And Iowa's ability to hit explosive run games, that's going to be the difference in this football game. I don't think McNamara has to play well. I don't think they have the weapons to play well. But if they can run the football with some kind of consistency and or explosiveness, a couple plays here and there, I feel pretty good about Iowa to be able to win and win by 2.5.
I do too. Also, I'm going to look at Minnesota. I mean, you talk about the offensive line struggles on that right side specifically. I mean, you're bottom 40 in yards per carry thus far as a team whose identity you would like to be to run the football. They're a bottom 30 team in sacks allowed. So you know that this Iowa defense could potentially be licking its chops here against a rival on the road. I'm liking the Hawkeyes here in this spot. Lay 'em.
Listen, I will say here, if you are going to be taking any kind of player props with Minnesota and you like Darius Taylor this week, do not take his rushing. Take his rushing and receiving. The way they're using him out of the backfield is actually really encouraging, and that's what Protsmer does well, going back to New Hampshire. And especially if they're struggling to run the football, you could see him dinking and dunking at Taylor. Listen, Taylor looked a lot different week 3 than he did week 2. Week 2, he was still coming off the injury, maybe fatigued, maybe conditioned, but also not that explosiveness and that power we're used to seeing from him. Week 3, he looked really good against a pretty well-coached Nevada team. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I know, obviously, the Redshirt Sophomore will be there in full effect, and it'll be awesome. It'll be awesome.